Okay, in this lesson we're going to look at timeouts and intervals. JavaScript has a set timeout and set interval method that allow us to execute a function after a set amount of time. Set timeout does it once, right? It'll say, hey, after 3 seconds or 3,000 milliseconds, do this function, and it'll just do it once. Whereas an interval will repeatedly do it every 3 seconds, every 2 seconds, whatever you specify. Okay, W3 Schools has a nice little tutorial. I recommend reading through this. They have some nice little examples. I'm not a huge fan of this on-click, but for just a little example like this, it's fine. We've learned how to do event listeners, right? Button.add event listener, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this tutorial, it's not that long, and it goes over how to stop the execution, how to set it up, has a few examples. I strongly recommend going through this tutorial. With that being said, I will also do an example with our bubbles. So I'm going to take the same code, right? We've been working through these examples here with objects and functions. I'm just going to continue from where we were at before. And where we were at before was all these wonderful bubble functions in a separate file. And my main program, my draw function, is just calling those functions. Okay, I'm going to modify this program a little bit. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to get rid of the animation of the bubbles. So I'm going to delete that. And I might as well delete this too. I'll just comment it out for now. So Control/ to comment that out. So now our program should just be there. There's no movement. What I'd like to do is I'd like to randomly teleport the bubbles to a new location on the screen after a certain amount of time. So let's do in this file, right, my bubbles.js, I'm going to have a function called teleport bubble. Our bubbles, let's do both of them. And all I need to do here is go bubble.x is assigned, math.random, and let's times it by canvas.width. So that'll be a random number between 0 and 1, times it by the width will give me a random number between 0 and the width. So if it's 800, 0 times 1, or sorry, 0 times 800 is 0, 1 times 800 is 800. Gives me a random value between 0 and the width of the canvas. Bubble.y is math.random times canvas.height. Cool, that should teleport one of the bubbles. Let's copy and paste that and change that to bubble 2, etc. Okay, so just to make sure that this works, if I called teleport bubbles inside of here, we should see that it's, they're randomly teleporting 60 frames per second because it's calling this function 60 frames per second. Okay, that's not what I want. Get rid of that. What I'd like to do is set a timeout to teleport the bubbles. So we just use the set timeout function. Is it lowercase? I think so. Set timeout function. And it's looking for a handler. So a function to run. So I'm going to go teleport bubbles. Notice I'm not going to call the function here. I'm just going to give the set timeout the name of the function. Right? Because we don't want to call the function right now. And then I give it a number of time in milliseconds. So 3,000, let's do. So 3 seconds. So I'm going to save that. And hopefully after 3 seconds, it teleported. And now it won't do it again because the set timeout just happens once. Okay. So I guess technically what I could do is I could also go document.add event listener, click, and then we could do a set, let's go call it bubble timer. Function bubble timer, and I'm just going to take this code here and it's going to run this set timeout. So now 1, 2, 3, nothing happens, but if I click, it now set the timeout, and after 3 seconds it should teleport. And that only happened once, so if I click again, 1, 2, 3, and it teleports. Cool. So I set that timeout, it happens once. Now, If I were to change this to set interval, then let's see what happens here. So the set interval won't run until I click, right? So nothing's going to happen. Once I click, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So the set interval will repeatedly execute that code, right? It's going to repeatedly execute teleport bubbles, right? The set interval I gave it this function. It's going to call this function every 3 seconds. Cool. Okay, how do I cancel this though? What if I want to stop it? Well, the way to do that, let's see how we can do that. Let's add it to another document.add event listener, and let's do it. Let's change this to mouse down, and I'll change this to mouse up. And then we'll say cancel timer, function cancel timer. Okay, awesome. Now what I need to do here is I actually need a variable to store this, this interval. So I'm going to add that to my global variables here. Let timer. Okay. And then when I create the interval, I can go timer is assigned. So this global timer is going to be assigned whatever this set interval is. Okay, basically this function returns a reference to this control interval that it does. So in here, if I should double check the notes, I almost forget. Is it clear timer or clear interval? I think it's clear interval. How to stop clear interval. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to call the function clear interval, and what I pass in is this handler that's storing a reference to that interval. Okay, so let's see what that does. Clear interval timer. So right now there's no interval. I'm going to hit mouse down and hold it, and now every 3 seconds it should teleport. Cool. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then once I release the mouse up event will fire, and it will cancel or clear the interval. So I released it, it cleared the interval, and now it's no longer teleporting. Okay, cool. Anyway, that's the main thing here, right? The set timeout and set interval. It executes a function after a set amount of time, and you can clear that interval. You can also do it with timeouts as well. If you want to clear the timeout before it happens, you can do that too. Stop time, clear interval. Like I said, lots of examples right here. Try it yourself, things you can play around with that. And maybe you can find a use for this in your project somewhere. Okay, that's timeouts and intervals. I hope that made sense. Take care and see you in the next video.